welcome to Vanished Voices. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Shannon.
The story I have for you today starts on a freezing cold night in January. It's not just cold. The area of Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, was experiencing Arctic cold. That night was minus 26 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 32 degrees Celsius. A 20-year-old Ojibway woman walks out into the night and never makes it home. Hours later, she's found barely alive behind an isolated recycling depot, covered in snow and fighting for her life. The police say she simply froze to death, a tragic accident, but her family is not so sure. Why was Rocelyn found so far from home, missing her coat, her purse, her phone? Who, if anyone, brought her to this desolate spot in the middle of a raging blizzard? And did the authorities do enough to uncover the truth? These haunting questions have lingered for years. This is the story of Rocelyn Gabriel. Rocelyn, Roxy, as her friends and family called her, Gabriel was a vibrant young Indigenous woman with dreams and a loving family, born and raised in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, which is about 82 kilometers or 51 miles west of Winnipeg. Rocelyn was Ojibway and deeply connected to her family and her community. In 2013, she graduated from high school, an accomplishment that made her family so proud. Rocelyn had big dreams. Her mother later said she was preparing to attend Red River College, which is also in their same city, to earn a nurse's aide certificate. She hoped to build a career caring for others, which is a reflection of how kind and nurturing she was. Despite her youth, Rocelyn was known as a strong-willed and responsible woman. In fact, family members say she had recently stopped drinking altogether. She hadn't touched alcohol for months leading up to the night everything happened. At 20 years old, she was focused on her future. She loved spending time with her extended family and was especially close with her sisters and cousins. Her older sister, Connie, described Rocelyn as someone who had big dreams and a bright future ahead. Friends and relatives called her Roxy, remembering her as a fun-loving young woman who could light up a room with her smile. She was, by all accounts, a typical woman in their area, excited about the next chapter of life. But Rocelyn's life was also grounded in the reality of being an Indigenous woman in Canada. Her family was painfully aware of the disproportionate risks faced by Indigenous women. Indigenous women make up only a small fraction of Canada's population, but they suffer violence and go missing or are murdered at alarmingly high rates, which might sound familiar.
Yeah.
Rocelyn's own family had already experienced tragedy. A cousin, Jennifer Catchway, had disappeared in 2008 and has never been found. These realities weighed on them. Still, no one could have imagined that Rocelyn herself would become part of this tragedy.
See, this is again me going off on a conspiracy theory.
Again.
But
I don't think you do that.
But, everyone talks about what happened to all of our serial killers. And they don't just go away. Mm-hmm. They change their methods based on the technology that's come their way.
Oh, exactly.
So, the fact that there's such high volume of people that are historically overlooked and ignored, I think is just the perfect storm for a serial killer to focus on. And now knowing that it's the same type of MO in Canada that it is here in the US, especially when I know their Indigenous population is smaller, when it's already small is even more like, hello.
Right? You're absolutely right. They know where to focus on these cases that are quickly ruled accidents.
And that's where I'm like, how does someone freeze to death?
Yeah.
I don't care how. I've drank in cold weather. You're still cold.
Yeah.
So, it almost in a sense sobers you up because you're cold and shivering. And I've read about more than enough cases where the Indigenous person is always frozen to death, died of hypothermia. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How? You're not, I don't know. I don't get that.
Well, and when there's a blizzard, it's minus 32 degrees
Celsius. Yeah, you're not
Celsius.
going out. You're staying home.
Yep. So, yeah, her family has the same thoughts. By January 2014, Rocelyn was on a positive path. She lived in Portage la Prairie with her family. And at the time, Portage la Prairie, a small city on the prairies of Manitoba, was gripped by a brutally cold winter. Temperatures regularly plunged far below freezing. It was the kind of cold that bites through layers of clothing, the kind of cold you don't mess with, and you know that when you live there. Yet, despite the weather, Rocelyn and her relatives still found ways to socialize and enjoy their weekends. On the evening of January 25th, 2014, which was a Saturday, Rocelyn planned to spend time with her sister and cousins at a small house party in town. It was a chance to relax and catch up with family. Nothing out of the ordinary for a young woman on the weekend. As she left home that day, Rocelyn could have never known that this ordinary night would be her last.
Does she have a car?
She did not have a car that night.
Okay.
She got a ride there with her sister, and then we'll talk about it. They went to a second location
together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was she supposed to go home that night, or were they going to stay the night at someone's house?
She was supposed to go home.
Okay.
So there was a mix-up. She was with her sister and her cousin at the second house party.
Yeah.
Her sister left thinking she was driving home with her cousin, and her cousin thought that Rocelyn had already
left with the sister. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And does she have a cell phone?
She does.
Okay.
Saturday, again, January 25th, temperatures well below freezing. There's snow on the ground, and by late night, a blizzard is sweeping through the area. But in the early evening, the family's plans are simple. We're going to have this house family gathering, get together. Rocelyn meets up with her younger sister, Lynette, and their cousin, Mindy, that night. They head to Mindy's house on 17th Street, where a small party is underway. They have laughter, music, chatter, everything that you can picture for this tight-knit group of relatives and friends spending time together. Witnesses later confirmed that Rocelyn was sober that night. While some of the cousins were drinking socially, Rocelyn wasn't. She had given up alcohol for several months. She was focused on her health and her other goals. And this fact is important. It counters any assumption that Rocelyn got hopelessly drunk and wandered off confused. She was clear-headed.
Could she have had a drink that somebody spiked?
She could have.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially at the second party, which doesn't sound...
I mean, yeah, in the first one, it's a family, so no.
Right. But the second one sounded more like...
kids.
Yeah. Because it was later, too.
Yeah.
They didn't go there
the after party of the original
the
party.
after party, exactly. They went there around 11. A text message had come through. There was another house party happening near the Dairy Queen.
Near the Dairy Queen. Let's get some blizzards.
In the blizzard.
Yeah, right.
Sounds cold.
I know.
And this was on 2nd Street. The group included Rocelyn, Lynette, and Mindy. All three went to the new
and Mindy's
location.
where the house, the first party was at, right? So she left her. So basically that party shut down.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's late.
Yeah.
With older, maybe relatives or...
Right. And you just want to, those that want to go home and those that want to continue to enjoy themselves.
I'm not sure how old Lynette and Mindy were, but Rocelyn was older than both of them. But I'm still guessing
20.
18.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. They moved to the new location.
Although if they're sister and cousin, I hung out with my cousins and there was different ages and I remember taking my younger cousin to parties.
Yeah.
Just because she was in town visiting. So when it's your cousin,
well, and
I think
here, they all live in the same community.
Right.
And I mean, Mindy
Small,
is
you're
old
all
enough
gonna
to
like
drive.
hang out together. Yeah.
She had a car there.
Okay.
And then Rocelyn's younger sister, Lynette, also had a car there.
Okay.
At the second party, Rocelyn continued to enjoy herself. Family members recall that everything seemed fine, nothing amiss. I'm not sure if other family members also came, like other cousins or siblings, but there were a good amount of friends and family at the second party. As that wound down in the early morning hours, people began making plans to head home. It was pretty late. between 3 to 4 a.m. is when this one's winding down. And this is where the confusion that we just talked about played a role. Like we mentioned, Rocelyn's sister Lynette thought that Rocelyn was getting a ride home with their cousin, and the cousin assumed that Rocelyn had already left on her own.
Did anyone ever later confirm if she had tried to call either one of them to get a ride?
I couldn't find any phone records. So her phone was found away from her down the road in her purse.
And she wasn't with her purse either. Mm-mm. I know, I would think that you'd be calling
come back and get
one or the other one. Yeah, saying, hey, yeah, exactly that. Come and get me. Or, hey, I still need a ride. Or, or even, I'm assuming she knows other people. Can anyone give me a ride? I mean, usually you can find a ride from somebody.
And that's the part.
Maybe that's what she did.
Exactly.
Can people confirm she actually walked away from this party? Or is that just the assumption?
That's the assumption.
Okay, so then it's very likely she got a ride from somebody else.
That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because exactly that. If she didn't have a ride at all, the wind chill had gotten even colder by then. We're talking minus 34 Celsius, minus 29 Fahrenheit. She's not walking.
No,
home.
Everyone, again, I didn't grow up in weather like that, but still being in that type of weather, you're going to give somebody a ride.
Yeah.
On your way, okay, I got to go. If you want me to drop you, then you need to come with me now because I have my own curfew. But I did that all the time because I had a car.
Well, and the whole city is 13,000 people.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a huge city.
No.
It wouldn't.
No, we're talking in a city, you're like that. You're still.
You can run and grab
10 minutes across town. So you're dropping people off. That's not a big deal.
Exactly.
And plus, knowing the weather, if you're going to be out, which of course I did plenty of times in the winter, especially as a teenager.
Yeah.
You're still going to be out. But again, you're going to not travel that far from your house because it's cold.
Yeah.
And especially if there's a blizzard. Of course, so let's have a blizzard party. But I just can't imagine that she wasn't with somebody that gave her, quote unquote, gave her a ride.
Agreed. I feel like she got a ride with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they knew who.
Right.
Yeah. By the time they were leaving, around midnight, the weather had deteriorated pretty bad. A raging blizzard was blowing. So by the time we get to 3 and 4 a.m., it's really coming down. They've got the wind chill, heavy snow, poor visibility, dangerous conditions. This isn't even something...
Well, it's even scarier because even to be driving in that.
Exactly. I was going to say, you don't even really want to be driving in it. You're not walking in it. When Rocelyn had stepped out that night, she was dressed for a party, not an Arctic expedition. She had left home in a winter coat earlier in the evening, but at some point, that coat was no longer with her. And I'm not sure if it got left in a car that she might have been in, or if it was left at one of the house parties.
Did they ever find it?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
When she was later found, Rocelyn was only wearing a sweater. No second sweater, no coat, no winter boots.
I mean, I can forgive the boots when you're, again, a girl trying to look cute at a party. You're not wearing your...
You're risking the ice in those
snow
heels.
Boots.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. But the no coat thing...
That's weird.
If you had lost your coat at the first house party, you're really not trying to walk home.
You wouldn't have even... You don't leave your coat in that type of weather. Because you're going to wear it to get out of the house. I don't know.
Right.
And you're dressed in layers. So you're going to have a shirt, then your sweater, then your coat.
Yep. And I don't know. I remember getting in the car when it was not that cold, but freezing, and freezing my butt off while it warmed up.
Yeah.
Like needing the coat just for the beginning of the
just
drive.
Sit in the car while the car, you get the ice off of it and the snow windshielded off. And
the coat is just a staple.
And even then, I wore boots, but they were fashion boots, not snowshoe boots or snow boots or anything. I haven't worn a moon boot since I was 8.
Yeah. Oh, those were great though.
They were warm.
They were.
But they were not cute.
They were good for walking to school in the snow back when I was little. Sometime around 4 a.m., Rocelyn was last seen by someone at that second house gathering on 2nd Street, and that is the last confirmed sighting of her alive by any friend or family.
What do we know what time her sister and cousin left?
Just a little bit before then.
Okay, so
it was close. They all should have been leaving at the same time.
Okay.
And I don't know if she went back to get her coat or to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that's when the miscommunication happened. And maybe she's
very likely phones would be dead at that point. So, okay, that's plausible. I still think she didn't walk. Somebody was going to give her a ride.
Yeah. Now, from this point forward, we rely on circumstantial evidence and security camera footage to trace what happened next. According to what police later told the family, Rocelyn somehow traveled from the area of 2nd Street all the way to the outskirts of town, specifically to the Portage and District Recycling Depot on the western edge of Portage la Prairie. And this is a distance of roughly 3 kilometers or just under 2 miles. Now,
In a blizzard?
in a
You're not
blizzard,
walking. Come on.
I was trying to find, is this the direction of her house? And she was almost there. But from everything I can find, it sounds like it is the opposite way that she would have needed
so there's
to
a red
go.
flag right there.
Yeah. We don't have her exact address, but we know where she went to high school. We know where the residential town
Portion is, yeah.
Yes. And this is the opposite of how she would reasonably walk home if she were going
to walk home, okay.
Mhm. Normally, almost 2 miles takes some time.
Yeah.
And then you add on the blizzard and the
It's what?
snow,
A mile is,
the wind,
we'll say 30 minutes, especially in cold and wind and
ice.
unseen conditions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking a little less than 2. So, I mean, that's like an hour.
Mm-hmm. And she ended up at the recycling plant within 40 minutes.
They can prove that?
Mm-hmm. That's on security camera.
Okay.
If the timeline is accurate, it's exactly what you said. That is quite a feat to make it that distance in just 40 minutes.
Walking.
Mm-hmm. It is a long time if you're not walking.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a scary thought.
Well, maybe the person you're driving around with is going slower because they can't see.
True.
Maybe I mean, now I'm to the point of, she's with a boy. They're hanging out.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also possible that she had called for a taxi, waited for them to come, maybe with the conditions, how late it was, other
Small
people
towns don't really
drinking.
have taxis, though. Do they?
They do. There's some reports of some sketchy cab drivers that come up later.
Oh,
so
interesting.
it is possible, which could explain. But then again, if you're getting a cab ride,
yeah, because did an
they're
Uber
going the opposite way,
right? And did an Uber exist back then?
I remember Ubers in 2015 and 2016, but I don't remember before then. And I still feel like it was new.
It was definitely new. I can't even remember the first time I took one.
I can't either. Rocelyn's family strongly suspects she didn't walk there. They believe someone gave her a ride or took her there by car.
I mean, obviously.
Right. The recycling depot is essentially an industrial yard with large bins and piles of recyclables. It's remote. It's desolate.
So do people hang out there? Is it like
No.
Okay. So again, odd spot for her to be at.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not a place that you would wander by choice because you can't get inside anywhere. At 4:45 a.m., a grainy security camera at the depot recorded a figure arriving on the property. And that figure is Rocelyn. She was alone. There are no other people visible in the footage.
And there's no question that it's her on the security camera.
Right.
Okay.
This doesn't show how Rocelyn arrived. So whether she was dropped off by a vehicle at the gate or she had been walking for a ways there, you can't see it from their security camera system. And it's never been released to the public. It's still an open case. But she was there at the depot in the dark at 4:45 a.m. What unfolded next is heartbreaking. Known partly from the security footage and later reconstructions, we can piece together that despite this horrible cold, Rocelyn fought to survive. The camera footage, which the family was briefed on by police, it doesn't sound in most of the reporting that they ever actually got to see it. It showed that Rocelyn sought shelter behind these large recycling bins, huddling up against them for a little bit of protection from the elements.
From the wind, yeah.
She didn't just hide, though. You can see her actively trying to save herself. In the footage, Rocelyn emerges from behind the bins and runs towards the roadway 4 separate times, desperately attempting to flag down passing cars.
Do you think they just didn't see her?
I think so.
Oh.
I mean, really dark at that time.
Oh, yeah. I've been in snow coming down, like you can't even see past your windshield. So, yeah.
And their sunrise isn't until 8:15.
Oh, wow.
And this time of year. Yeah.
Wow, that's really late.
I know. That was their sunrise today, which is wild.
Yeah.
So really dark. I don't know if there were a lot of lights. And we also find out her phone and purse are found down the road from this recycling depot.
Which explains why she wasn't trying to call people.
Right. And also not using a flashlight or the light on that to try to get people to notice. You can see her waving her arms, hoping anyone would stop to help. And it's devastating to think about. Each time when no one stopped, she retreated back behind the bins, probably to get out of the wind. I'm sure there weren't a lot of cars passing by on a Sunday morning at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., on the outskirts, more industrial side of town.
Yeah.
She, like I said, was only wearing a sweater, which was likely
nothing
soaked through, frozen stiff at this point. The wind chill was severe enough to cause frostbite in minutes. Her body temperature is dropping, and still she kept trying. You can feel her determination to get anyone's attention to help her out of this situation. Her aunt later said Rocelyn was strong-willed and clearly fighting with everything she had. Tragically, help did not arrive in time. In a cruel twist, the security footage even showed that a couple of people came by to drop off recyclables during the early morning hours. So
was it public, like recycles, or were people just using it to...
I believe you could come and drop off your recyclables.
Okay.
The other people showed up. It was closer to that, like 6 or 7. So she'd been out there for a while.
Yeah, a couple hours.
They were unaware that Rocelyn was there.
So is this point she's still behind the bin and she's probably not alive anymore? So that's why
she is alive when they get there.
Oh.
Yeah. Amazing.
But at this point, but was she just too weak at that point
to what I think.
Flag them to say okay.
So for 3 hours, Rocelyn endured this. The clock ticked past 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., the night slowly turning to Sunday morning. By around 8 a.m. on January 26th, Rocelyn could no longer fight. She collapsed in the snow. At nearly the same time, a local man happened to arrive at the recycling depot. This man was an employee from a nearby McCain's plant who was dropping off recyclables. The man saw something that gave him pause. He noticed a human figure laying in the snow. He rushed closer and discovered Rocelyn, who was barely alive, but half buried in fallen snow. He urgently called emergency services. RCMP and EMS paramedics raced to the scene. When first responders reached Rocelyn shortly after 8 a.m., she was somehow still conscious, but she was in bad shape. Her body was shutting down from extreme hypothermia. The responders quickly and carefully lifted her into an ambulance and sped to the Portage District General Hospital. Despite the medical team's efforts, the outcome was tragic. Rocelyn did succumb to extreme exposure, and in other words, she froze to death. She was pronounced dead at the hospital later that morning. In the span of a single night, the Gabriel family's world shattered. Their beautiful Roxy, who had been laughing and visiting with them just hours before, was gone. News of Rocelyn's death hit her family and community hard. A young Indigenous woman dying of exposure in an industrial snowbank was a story all too resonant of the dangers women like her face, and it left everyone asking how on earth this could have happened. Almost immediately, Rocelyn's loved ones began to question the official narrative and push for answers. Her older sister, Connie, said just a few days later, "We don't understand. There's no reason for her to pass by all of those houses and end up all the way over here." And Rocelyn knew the area well. She had grown up there. Her family lived there. She had friends and relatives home she could have knocked on for help if she was lost or stuck at that house party or in trouble. Why would she bypass all of these safe havens to wind up in this icy recycling depot lot? It doesn't make sense. On Tuesday, January 28th, so 2 days after Rocelyn's death, the family invited media to the very spot where she had been found.
That's just also interesting because exactly what her family member said. She's passing by houses that she knows the people that live there. So if she's walking, why wouldn't she have stopped?
Right. That's why it doesn't.
No, she was definitely in a car with somebody.
Yeah. On that Tuesday, they held a candlelight vigil at the recycling depot to honor Rocelyn's memory and speak out about their concerns. Standing in the bitter cold.
Was there anyone that was paying special attention to her that night that the family was noticed or whatever that was hanging out with her?
Not in the reporting.
Okay.
So whether police have that, I'm not sure. At first, they definitely did not because they didn't interview anybody.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because now it's just a girl who's frozen to death, not that it was foul play.
Right.
Of course, it's an accident.
An accident, yeah. Joyce, who's Rocelyn's mother, spoke to the people who had come to help mourn Rocelyn. This breaks my heart. She said she would never go over there. She knows where she lives. I need to know why. Why? It's too early for her to go. Somebody has got to know something. My baby. I'm not ready. I just need her to come home. Ugh. It's just hearing that and the pain in her mother's voice, this mix of
I can't imagine
heartbreak and desperate plea to find out the truth. Connie, Rocelyn's sister, also voiced the family's doubts publicly. She noted that Rocelyn would have had to pass by the, quote, co-ops, which is a local nickname for a populated part of town, to reach the depot. So why would Rocelyn, cold, possibly in distress, not stop somewhere closer for help? Somewhere where people were.
I mean, why were the police not even a little bit like, this doesn't make sense when we can instantly see it just doesn't make sense?
That's where you start to feel like lack of caring or biases or an easy case closed that we don't need to spend time on. I mean, it's
right. Like I get manner of death is accidental, but it's the how did she come to the reasoning behind it. It's not an accident.
No. And I would think if you could find the situation before she ended up at the depot.
Right. Did they do an autopsy? Can they tell if there was like sexual violence against her?
Well, they did an autopsy. They only did a rape kit after her family pushed. They weren't going to. They were like, why? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Exactly. Her family had to push for every single piece that they even have.
Did the rape kit yield anything?
They didn't disclose it publicly.
Okay. I'm just floored. Okay.
Yeah, it's just dot your I's and like cross your T's in the most basic way of your job.
Let's
just do your job.
Find out why she got out there, why she wasn't calling for help, why she passed by family members' homes that were much closer or on the way that she could have walked into. Why didn't she call the people that were supposed to be giving her a ride, regardless of miscommunication?
Right.
There's so many obvious...
Why wasn't her purse with her? Where was her coat?
I mean, I'm sure they said, she dropped it, and then kept walking. But it's so obvious she didn't walk when you know what time she left this party and what time she showed up at this depot on camera. There's no way you could walk that fast.
So someone somewhere has those answers.
Yeah.
Let's try to find them. I don't think it should be that like rocket science to go down those.
No. Because, then you could say the actions then led to her death.
I mean, manslaughter at the
Right. Like, I mean, it's still going to be, yeah. Yes, manslaughter. It's probably not going to be murder, but it's going to be manslaughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At the vigil, Rocelyn's father, Gary, painted a gut-wrenching picture of his daughter's final struggle. Gesturing to a sheltered corner of the depot building, he told those gathered, "Can you imagine how cold we are right now? And how cold it was for Rocelyn when there was a storm that morning? Right in this spot is where she tried to warm up." He explained that each time Rocelyn saw headlights from a vehicle, she would run, but she was getting weaker each time. By the fourth try, she could no longer get up. Gary also revealed a heartbreaking thought that brings tears. He believes that Rocelyn held on just long enough for her parents to reach her bedside. So her parents had been out of town in Winnipeg when the blizzard struck, but when they heard about what had happened, they raced back to Portage, and they did make it to see her, which is some small solace, according to Gary. I mean, so sad. From the very start, Rocelyn's family voiced a fear that her death might be dismissed as, quote, just another drunken misadventure and not properly investigated because she was Indigenous. And unfortunately, initial signs from law enforcement did very little to ease that fear. When the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Portage la Prairie, first reported on Rocelyn's death, their public stance was clear: no foul play suspected. In a brief statement, they attributed her death solely to the cold temperatures on that morning. They noted that it had been minus 34 degrees Celsius with the wind chill, and that Rocelyn was, quote, scantily dressed for the weather. I think you mean not wearing a coat.
Not wearing a coat. Yeah.
Come on.
Like, yeah, poor choice of words.
Yeah, I don't like that. The implicit narrative was that Rocelyn had gotten caught out in the blizzard and tragically succumbed to hypothermia, a misadventure, but not a crime. And I don't know how you can call her death a misadventure.
Right.
It's got to be infuriating.
Yeah, I get the manner in which she died is correct.
Right.
However, how did she end up in how does anyone end up in that position?
With everything we've talked about so far.
Right. Just
someone
come on.
Somewhere knows something. The conclusion was reached astonishingly quickly. According to Rocelyn's family, the very officers at the scene that morning when she was found treated it as an unfortunate accident from the get-go. Her aunt later recalled with frustration that they did nothing. They did not close off the area. They weren't doing their jobs. To her, it appeared police took...
Well, and toxicology that's going to still take a couple weeks to come back. I mean, you do the autopsy immediately and get results within 24, 48 hours, but not toxicology.
Right.
So again, you're assuming she's intoxicated when we know she didn't drink anymore, and I'm going to guess that toxicology came back to confirm that.
I would love to see the results of that for what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Was her drink spiked,
Right, yeah. Which, I mean, depending on what it may or may not have been spiked with.
True.
I think GHB does show up in testing.
Do you have to search for it specifically or
I'm sure it's something you have to specifically look for.
That's what I thought.
But I would think that you would say to the coroner or the medical examiner when they do toxicology, make sure you test for A, B, C, D, and E, because we think this might be a contributing factor.
Her aunt says that police took one look at Rocelyn, an Indigenous young woman who had been at a party, and assumed they knew what happened. She got drunk or disoriented, wandered off, and froze. Which again, wandered off, find out where she came from.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's not next door.
Right. Again, even if you are intoxicated, minus the fact that maybe it's been spiked with a drug, but just regular alcohol, that level of cold is going to sober you up immediately, especially walking in it.
You're not
Come on.
Going for a 2-mile brisk jog in minus 34. Her aunt said that the RCMP determined no foul play too quickly and, in the process, failed to gather key evidence. In those critical morning hours, the site was not treated as a potential crime scene at all. There was no effort to cordon off the area for any kind of careful search. And we mentioned a little bit ago, no one interviewed Rocelyn's friends or family right away. Typically, in cases of an unexpected death, police would backtrack the victim's last movements by talking to the people who saw her last. But her aunt noted that investigators hadn't even begun conducting interviews in the days following Rocelyn's death. In fact, the family was aghast to learn that the lead RCMP investigator on Rocelyn's file went on vacation shortly after the incident, and it wasn't given to someone else to take over while they were gone. It just sat. To the Gabriels, this signaled that the police did not view Rocelyn's case with any suspicion and very certainly no urgency. One of the most contentious points was the handling of potential forensic evidence. When Loretta, her aunt, asked an RCMP officer why they didn't perform a sexual assault exam or a rape kit on Rocelyn, she was told, "We didn't think there was a need for that." The statement,
Crazy.
infuriated the family. From their perspective, a young woman being found not wearing all the layers they know she left in, freezing behind a recycling depot in this industrial area, absolutely warranted checking for signs of assault. Loretta pressed the issue and insisted that a rape kit be done, and only then did investigators comply and perform this exam. And the results, like I said, were never made public, but the family's point was that it should have been done as a matter of course, not at their urging. If they weren't as on top of this as they were, they could have not known that they didn't do one. There were other pieces of evidence too that the family had to basically scream for a deeper look. One was Rocelyn's missing coat. Where did it go? If she simply got lost walking home, why would she have taken off her winter coat in a blizzard? Another was her purse and her cell phone. Her aunt learned from RCMP that Rocelyn's purse with her phone inside was discovered down the road from the depot, quite a ways away from where Rocelyn herself was found. I wanted to find out if it was, it doesn't necessarily matter, but further away in the direction that Rocelyn would have come from where Rocelyn was, they could have realized they still had it after driving beyond that, flipped around and threw it, making it look like it was tossed out the window or like she dropped it walking,
right?
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't figure out which side on the plant it was found. But how did it end up there? That suggests Rocelyn had been in a vehicle and her purse was tossed out. Did she drop it while running? Did somebody else throw it out? All of those scenarios, though, add suspicion. If she was alone, why would she give up her purse with her phone if she had any other choice?
Her cousin that also went missing, was there any similarities between?
It was in 2008.
So besides it being
6 years, but that's not that long.
No, but I'm just curious. Because again, statistically, for it to happen in the same family, I would have to say is also rather high.
He was 18. It happened on her birthday.
The cousin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
June 19th, 2008, her 18th birthday. She had called her parents to say she was coming home for her birthday celebration, but never showed up. Earlier that day, she was seen leaving Portage la Prairie with 2 family members, her uncle and her cousin, and was seen at a house party in Grand Rapids, Manitoba, which is over 400 kilometers from her family home. Her uncle and her cousin were the last people to see her. Her uncle said he dropped her off near Waterhen Junction on Highway 6. Both men were later arrested but released without charges. She's still missing.
Yeah. To have 2 family members.
Yeah. So sad. So her purse, I want to know what was in there. Did she have a wallet in there? Was it found in there? Did she have cash in her wallet? Maybe the wallet was still there, but...
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he threw it out to get it out of his vehicle after he'd let her out.
Mm-hmm. or if she somehow
got out
and then he threw it after realizing she didn't take it. I would think if she got out first, though, she would have taken it.
Not if you're trying to get away.
True.
You were just trying to get
That's
away.
the more important pressing problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Get away.
The family also noticed scratches and bruises on Rocelyn's body when they saw her, whether she had been in some kind of altercation with someone or had fallen down while running. They're not
was
sure.
being raped and she's fighting back.
Right. And managed to
you're going to
get away.
Even just from the act itself.
Yeah.
Even if there's going to be scrapes and bruising and marks that should not have been there.
While these scratches and bruises don't automatically prove foul play, everything collectively raises serious questions. The RCMP, for its part, stood by its officer's initial approach. A spokesperson, Constable Tara Seal, said that the officers at the scene were very experienced and that they were going with their reaction on that. In other words, the police felt that their gut instinct that this was a hypothermia accident was sound.
Which I agree with that, but what led to that? That's the part, because every time I see a case with hypothermia, okay, but what led to that?
Right.
Because again, I've been outside in cold and you just don't chill out in what led to that?
Especially where you can see on there her running to the road.
Right. Trying to flag people down.
Not there by choice.
No.
And also that gut instinct was that, I don't know, maybe racial bias, or was that I need to check one more off my...
I think it's I need to check. There's nothing for us to investigate because we know the outcome and we've got the conclusion from the medical examiner. I'm not disputing
when they were on
the manner of death. I want to know what led to that. That's the part that needs to be questioned. Because that was not accidental.
They didn't know her manner of death when they got to the scene and didn't rope it off.
Right.
You know? Under increasing pressure from her family, and it is awful that it takes that, and other Indigenous advocates, the RCMP did take some follow-up steps. They later stated that interviews were being conducted with people who had been in contact with Rocelyn on the night of her death. Rocelyn's family, though, remained skeptical. They felt these steps were belated and only happening to please them because they were pushing, not because police were actually doing investigative work on this case. It also took the urging of Rocelyn's family for police to obtain and review surveillance videos from local businesses in the area, not just from the recycling depot. The Gabriels had to practically lead investigators to do this.
So did they do that?
They did.
And did they show her walking, as I use quotation marks?
I don't believe that those have ever been released publicly.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, did it take 10 days and were they already recorded over so they then tell the family that nothing was on them? Or did they get them after 2 days and not see anything?
Mm-hmm.
And what about, I don't know, I just feel like if there were cars driving past, was there any way to see?
Oh, and I keep saying manner. It's really cause. We don't know again, manner is still, I guess, the cause in this case, but.
Well, I mean, that's like the accident or natural or.
Yeah.
The surveillance, I wish I knew if they got it right away and if it showed something. I'm also curious if the cars that they can see her going down to was possibly one of them, whoever dropped her off.
Right. I mean, you would think
coming back to look for her.
Yeah. You would think if there is anything else on, no, it doesn't sound like they got them immediately since they had to be pressured into it.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine how many days had actually gone by. Small town, again, I have to assume they're not having state-of-the-art security.
Right.
So yeah, at that point, is there really anything available? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really want to know, did you see someone walking or did you see somebody or what cars were traveling down this road?
And how far did we go
Is there more than one way to get to this recycling depot? Or is it one path everyone takes to get there?
Right. And I don't know, 3 kilometers, not that far, but how far out did we go? Did we go all the way from the Dairy Queen that was right next to the house party? Did they have surveillance? Can you see who she left with from there? Or did they just get the business across the street? Or, wherever the closest one was? It just feels like there's so much more you could do to give these answers, even if the end result is that for whatever reason, she went on a walk by herself without calling people, lost her coat somewhere that's never been found, left her purse with her phone, and ended up there. Could we still find that out with like 100% surety as opposed to just saying, you know what happened and leave all the questions? It took a couple days after Rocelyn's death, but the RCMP did order a full autopsy to be performed. The autopsy would officially determine the cause of death and look for any signs of injury or toxins. However, the results of that autopsy were not immediately available, and once completed, they were not publicized. They're in the case files. While it's still open, you can't see them. Based on everything that has emerged since, we know the autopsy likely concluded that Rocelyn's cause of death was hypothermia. I would assume no obvious lethal trauma because there's no indication they found injuries like stab wounds or a head injury that would prove outright an attack. And importantly, an autopsy scope is limited. It can't tell you how someone came to be in the situation. Just like we keep saying, only what the physiological cause of death was. The manner of death, accident, or homicide is often left to investigators, which it seems like they picked real quick. It sounds like the autopsy did not provide a smoking gun for foul play because the RCMP continued to maintain its stance that there was no evidence of homicide. But to Rocelyn's family, no evidence of foul play was a conclusion you would only reach if you didn't actually look for evidence. In their eyes, the investigation had been tainted by bias and indifference from the beginning. Her Aunt Loretta and others could not shake the feeling that if Rocelyn had been a non-Indigenous woman, if she had been, say, the daughter of a prominent local family, the scene would have been handled very differently. From day one, the Gabriels believed that someone else was involved in Rocelyn's death. They did not accept that she wandered to the depot on her own. Loretta says she didn't end up there because she wanted to pass out. Nobody walks miles through their community to end up at a secluded location, bypassing other homes she could stop at. She was cold. She would have knocked on the first door to get help, and she didn't have that opportunity. So in other words, something or someone prevented Rocelyn from reaching help. The family's working theory became this. Perhaps Rocelyn accepted a ride from someone at the end of the night, and that person intended to harm her. Maybe she sensed danger, or maybe that was expressly said, and fled the vehicle, ending up at the depot to escape her pursuer. Loretta speculated that a local cab driver might have been involved, since other young women in the area had whispered about a suspicious cabbie. And I tried to find more about that. I couldn't find any news articles. It sounds more like known within the city or the community. They need to be careful. This is happening. Keep an eye out. I couldn't find any specifics on what that was. But this theory, whether she knew who gave her a ride or it was a cab driver, fit a few of the strange clues: the missing coat, maybe left in the car when she bolted, or maybe taken from her. The purse thrown down the road, perhaps tossed from a car, dropped in a chase, and the scratches on her body, either from scrambling to get away or an attack or assault on her. These are possibilities, but without a thorough investigation, they remained only that, possibilities. In Rocelyn's case, the absence of early evidence was not proof that nothing happened. It might well have been the result of key evidence being lost in those first hours, when the scene wasn't secured. Snowfall can cover tracks, especially if people are getting there with the intention of helping her right away. They're not trying to preserve whatever's happening. And, this can erase traces of a struggle, their opportunity to catch whoever this was. They did not jump on it right away. In the weeks and months that followed Rocelyn's death, her family refused to let the case fade. They spoke to any media outlet that would listen, determined to keep Rocelyn's story alive and push authorities to dig deeper. There's an image of her mom crying in her living room, holding a photo of Rocelyn that ran in the newspapers, and the heartbreak on her face was matched by this quiet fury, a resolve that Rocelyn would not be dismissed as, quote, just another drunken girl who wandered off. Local Indigenous leaders and advocates rallied around the family. Rocelyn's name was invoked in broader calls for justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. At the time, in 2014, public awareness of that crisis was growing. The Gabriel family knew that many other Indigenous families had stories of loved ones who died under suspicious circumstances, only to have their cases brushed aside or misclassified. In April 2014, about 3 months after Rocelyn's death, the Gabriel family made another public plea. They said, "We are here today to ask and seek answers." They reiterated their belief that someone took Rocelyn to that depot and that she did not simply lose her way. The family's persistence kept pressure on the RCMP to at least keep Rocelyn's file open.
What is the RCMP?
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Okay.
So it sounds like they each have their own.
Yes. Now,
not like the FBI.
Is there a BIA or
not that
anything in Canada like we have in the US?
Not that I've seen in any of the ones I've researched.
Okay.
So whether they just haven't brought them in.
Right. They don't have reservations there either, do they?
It doesn't seem like it. So it didn't seem like there was a separate tribal police or any of the.
Yeah.
And this city they live in, like I said, 13,270 was the population in 2021. 90% of their population is either Indigenous or European. And out of that 90%, 29% is Indigenous. So they have a fairly...
European or Canadian?
It says European.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess ethnicity-wise, which could be a conglomeration.
Yes.
Because I'm like, well, they're Canadian. So interesting.
And that was just on their...
Yeah, I'm interesting that they still refer to themselves as European.
Mm-hmm. They had, 3,735 was the Indigenous population in 2021. My point being, it is a...
Wait, 3,000?
3,300.
Out of the 13,000?
Mm-hmm.
That's, I would say, fairly large. Especially in a smaller town like that.
Right.
But
you can still have bias.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And it's come out definitely in recent years how horribly Indigenous people were treated in Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, I think their prime minister apologized for, acknowledged and apologized.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about the schools there and some really horrible, like some mass graves, etc.
Yeah. There's some really tough history there too.
Yeah.
The family's persistence kept pressure on the RCMP to at least keep Rocelyn's file open. And indeed, by spring 2014, the RCMP had not officially closed the case. It was considered unsolved, and it still was labeled as not suspicious. But it's open, which is better than closed. A significant turn of events in June 2015, nearly a year and a half after Rocelyn's death, the RCMP in Manitoba made a public announcement seeking new information. On June 11, 2015, RCMP investigators started asking the public for tips regarding Rocelyn's case. This was a notable shift after initially acting as if nothing criminal occurred. They were now actively soliciting leads. It's unclear what exactly prompted this change. It did coincide with the release of a major RCMP report on missing and murdered Indigenous women around that time. It was a 2015 update to their national overview. It's possible that during the process of compiling information for that report, someone flagged Rocelyn's case as needing another look. That's the only thing I could find that made sense. It doesn't seem like anybody came forward or they got anything additional prior to that. Rocelyn's family took heart at this development. They were quoted as being hopeful the RCMP report would help shed light on Rocelyn's death. Perhaps they thought the national attention on MMIWG would force authorities to re-examine cases like Rocelyn's with fresh eyes. If the RCMP was asking for tips, saying they needed tips, maybe they thought something didn't add up. I kind of feel like they were forced to do that, but that's just after a lot of cases where they don't feel like they need to do anything, I guess. For the family, however, it was a double-edged sword. On one hand, they were glad the police seemed to finally acknowledge Rocelyn's case needed more work. On the other hand, it was frustrating. Those tips could have been gathered in the immediate aftermath if only police had shown any kind of urgency. Still, they cooperated fully. They worked to spread the word in the community that anyone who knew or heard anything about that night should come forward. Around this time, a couple more details emerged. In an investigative piece by CBC News in 2016, Rocelyn's younger sister, Olivia, publicly stated she believed in her heart it was foul play. She does not accept that Rocelyn simply froze by accident. Olivia pointed out the same suspicious elements we've discussed. Both Rocelyn and another woman were found unresponsive in the snow under odd circumstances, and they believe police could have done more to investigate. And I don't have information on the second
The other
case
one
that she's pointing
I wonder, was it close in time to Rocelyn's?
5 years apart.
Okay.
The CBC piece is titled Hypothermia or Homicide. Two Manitoba families question MMIW cases. And we've covered multiple cases now that have been labeled as hypothermia.
Well, I know that happens in Alaska for
Mhm.
us. A lot of those cases get labeled as hypothermia, which doesn't make any.
Mhm.
Please explain to me how. I know how it happens, but what led to it?
Right. Like Henny Scott's case.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
14 and
Yes.
just, yes. That piece paired Rocelyn's story with that of another Indigenous girl. Her name is Nicole Daniels, who was found frozen to death in 2009 under suspicious circumstances. The parallel was clear. In dozens of cases across Canada, police had ruled no foul play, but families and evidence suggested otherwise. And that's the problem, too. You're only getting evidence if you're looking for evidence and you are treating it as a case that needs solved. When you're treating it as an unfortunate accident, are we even getting the evidence that we need to find out if there was foul play? This was part of CBC's Unresolved series, a project in 2016 that looked into cases of Indigenous women whose deaths were officially not deemed murders, but whose families believed there was more to the story. Rocelyn's case was featured prominently. The investigation by journalists uncovered, quote, unexplained injuries, suspicious circumstances, and, importantly, failure to interview key witnesses. And this was in many of the cases, exactly what the Gabriels had seen happen in Rocelyn's case. By now, the broader movement for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women was in full swing, but it took years of activism led by Indigenous families and organizations to get to that point. In late 2015, Canada's federal government agreed to launch a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, which got underway in 2016. Families like Rocelyn's were invited to testify and to share their stories. In October 2017, Rocelyn's family testified at an inquiry hearing, ensuring her voice was heard by the commissioners and the public. They recounted how they felt the system had failed Rocelyn. the assumptions made about her, the slow response, the lingering impunity for whoever might have been involved. During those years, the Gabriels also turned their grief into community action. They formed and joined local advocacy groups. They held memorial events and kept Rocelyn's memory alive. On the 3rd anniversary of her passing, family and supporters gathered in Portage to remember Rocelyn and remind the public that her case remained unsolved. They also created a Facebook page called Gabriel's Justice to update and engage the community. In June of 2019, the school, North Memorial School in Portage la Prairie, dedicated a memory bench in Rocelyn's honor. The bench there bears her name, ensuring that students and staff remember her story. The principal of the school remarked on the significance of honoring Rocelyn as one of the region's missing and murdered Indigenous women. Despite all of this, the advocacy, the awareness, one thing has remained elusive: concrete answers. To date, no one has been charged in connection with her death. The official status of the case is somewhat murky. It was likely never classified a homicide, but it sits in the files as an open, unresolved case. The RCMP have not publicly changed their conclusion that Rocelyn died of hypothermia. But again, I don't think that's what they're asking you to do, or asking you to find out why she was there in the first place. Crucially, they have not publicly identified any suspect or theory of a crime either. In essence, it appears to be an open cold case, one that authorities will say lacks evidence of a crime, while the family says it lacks a proper investigation. For the Gabriel family, living with this limbo is painful. Every time a new lead fizzled or years passed without progress, it was another wound. They do say that they do not want their sister to just be another Aboriginal statistic. The family's guiding mission is to ensure Rocelyn's life and death are not forgotten, not by their community and not by the justice system. Her family continues to ask the hard questions. Who dropped Rocelyn at the depot? Why was she out there on that cold, bitter night? What went wrong at the start of the investigation? And more importantly, the statement, somebody out there knows something. Somebody knows how Rocelyn ended up there, and that person has never come forward. And this is your call to action. Cases like Rocelyn's often only reach a resolution when ordinary people speak up. Maybe you're from Manitoba and recall rumors or details from that time. Maybe someone confided in you about giving a ride to a girl that night, or you heard secondhand stories that seemed off. Even if you're far away, simply sharing Rocelyn's story can keep the spotlight on her case. The family's plea is straightforward. If you know anything about what happened to Rocelyn Gabriel on January 25th through 26th, 2014, please come forward. Now we're 12 years beyond that. They've had to wait for such a long time. Even the smallest detail could crack the case. You can contact the Portage la Prairie RCMP or Crime Stoppers anonymously with any tips, no matter how minor they might seem. Beyond Rocelyn's case, the larger call to action is here as well. Rocelyn's tragedy is part of a devastating pattern in Canada. The crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls has haunted Canada, with hundreds upon hundreds of Indigenous women like Rocelyn who have been murdered or vanished under mysterious circumstances. The RCMP's own report in 2014, which I would be willing to bet is missing quite a few, identified at least 1,181 such cases between 1980 and 2012. Advocates also believe the true number is even higher.
I was going to say, I bet it's even higher.
I bet it's a lot higher because they were very willing to close hers out
right
away.
An accident.
Yep. And, if her family hadn't have been right there and advocating at every...
common sense tells you that
you would think
it's not what it appears to be.
I don't believe the investigators are stupid.
No, No, they
I
were
believe
correct
it's
in their initial
deliberate.
assessment. It's what led to it, though. That's the
Right.
part that needs answered. And who can do that? The police.
And why didn't we want to do that in the first place? Do we
Right.
just not care?
Right.
Do we have that, here's another solved case that we can not spend time or resources on, which is horrible? Each of the cases are unique, but common threads run through many. Inadequate police response, cases written off as accidents or misadventures, and families left in the dark. This has been described as a national tragedy and even an epidemic, and it demands the attention of all Canadians. The National Inquiry into MMIWNG delivered its final report in 2019 that concluded that systemic racism and indifference have allowed violence against Indigenous women to persist, amounting to what they termed a Canadian genocide. And that's a heavy word, genocide, but it underscores the severity and collective responsibility to address this issue. We owe it to Rocelyn and women like her to ensure their lives are valued and their cases get the thorough investigation they deserve. So what can we do? First, educate ourselves and others. Share Rocelyn's story and the stories of other Indigenous women whose voices have been silenced. Keep these stories alive. As we do that, we apply pressure on authorities to not shelve these files. Secondly, support Indigenous-led organizations and initiatives that advocate for safety and justice. Groups like the Native Women's Association of Canada, which has long highlighted these issues. Thirdly, hold our institutions accountable. Police forces, media, and governments must all do better, and they respond when the public demands it. If Rocelyn's story has moved you, please consider it a call to action. Talk about her, discuss why cases like hers slipped through the cracks for so long. Challenge any narrative that too easily blames the victim or shrugs off an unexplained death. And above all, stand with Indigenous communities in demanding justice and demanding change. Hopefully, together, by shining a light on what happened and what should have happened, we can honor Rocelyn's memory. Let's help get answers for Rocelyn's family and ensure that no more voices like hers vanish without a fight.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vanished Voices. We are grateful you've chosen to spend your time with us as we bring attention to these stories that too often go unheard. If you'd like to learn more about the resources and sources we used in today's episode, visit our blog, linked through our website at vanishedvoicespodcast.com. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for the Vanished Voices pod. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and reflections, and to continue building this community with you. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast. Your support not only helps us reach more listeners, but also helps amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak for themselves. You can find Vanished Voices on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and all other streaming platforms. And as always, refuse to let these voices vanish.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.